Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. And once again, we're honored to have Joe Heagney back with us. He's the best-selling author of Fundamentals of Project Management that has sold over 250,000 copies worldwide and has been translated into multiple languages. And several institutions around the world are using his book. Joe, welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Michael, and thank you for the invite back. It's great to be here with you again.
It's an absolute honor, Joe. Right. So, procrastination, okay? That's been a huge problem for many. How can project management help us to create a 2.0 version of ourselves for the new year?
That's an interesting question, and it's a great one to kick off our discussion. I will tell you that I fall into the trap of procrastination as much as anybody. And what I've learned to use over the years is basically my project toolbox. I just go back to what I know best, which is project management, and I take a look at my entire year. Okay, it's a new year, it's kicking off, and I say, what do I want to accomplish this year in 2026? And I just go back to smart objectives, something we talked about the last time that we were together, being able to understand specifically what I want to accomplish in the new year, determine some measurables, identify who would need to agree to these goals as I embark on them. Are they realistic? Because if they're not realistic, just as with any project, then I really shouldn't be working towards them in the first place. And they're probably going to end up falling by the wayside. And then obviously have some kind of a time limit and also milestones. And that's important. So you can see what I do is I use my project knowledge, I apply it to myself to try to get out of the procrastination danger. And you know what? When I see it, when I look at my SMART objective, that helps me get motivated. And it helps me say to myself, you know what? It's time to stop putting things off. These are the things that I've laid out for myself, and I can begin going. And I'll give you an example. Going back to what I did in late January, I laid out 3 areas. One will be the training that I do, much of it for American Management Association, the project management training. What were my goals there? And I laid them out specifically. Also, a new edition of the Fundamentals of Project Management. It's still a ways off, but there's so much happening that I've started discussions with HarperCollins to see what direction they want to take, and I laid that out. And also a new business enterprise, which focuses on project management training requirements and how I'm going to help organizations identify what they need and require. And for each one of those 3 areas, Michael, I laid out specifically what I wanted to do. I laid out some measurables in terms of how much of my time needs to be devoted for each of those areas, what might need to be accomplished. I identified the agreed tos, various stakeholders that I would have to contact in each one of those 3 endeavors. I determined that all 3 were realistic. And then I laid out some milestones, which we talked about last time we were together, interim time checks within the overall schedule of 2026. And so, hey, it really does, it served to help me get off the starting block and get moving, because I could see what I had, what I was going to accomplish in 2026. So I recommend that to any of your listeners.
Absolutely. So We're always looking to improve ourselves, and I love that, Joe, what you said about procrastination. Okay, sometimes it is a pain, but we had to move on. Okay. Ooh. So, with AI advancing, how do you see the future of project management?
Wow. AI. How exciting is this? I mean, you are probably like me. Every day, or certainly every week, you read something else about artificial intelligence and the various agents that are out there, AI agents that are helping business people and certainly project managers with specifically designed project management suites for the AI applications. And it's just exciting. It's tough to keep up with. It really is, which I think makes it exciting. I think the key area for any project manager is not to get left behind. You don't have to become an AI expert. You don't have to understand the science, but you need to understand what AI can do for you. And I think, so far, the big advantage to somebody who's using AI agents is time, the time that's saved by delegating various parts of managing a project to the various AI agents. And it can apply to any one of you, any of the project management life cycle, any area of the project management life cycle. Um, Planning. AI, the key is the prompt. If you can really structure your prompt and let your AI assistant, understand exactly what you're looking for with the best information, specifically what you're looking for, then you'll get more out of it. And as I said, you can start with your scope of work and your project objective, and the AI agent can help you construct your project charter just by putting down what you're looking to do. And from there, you roll right into your other project tools, planning, scheduling, and controlling within your project world. It can help you with various parts of your project plan, be it your schedule, work specifically, specific tasks related to skill sets, who needs to do what, um, how long each task should take, all of the things that we talked about last time for a project manager to do. Now you can delegate off to your AI agent. But the key is in the prompt. The key is having the right project management suite of tools, and then following up thereafter. And I will tell you, Michael, I found that it does take a bit of a transition. It's going to take some getting used to, just as any new tool, it takes some getting used to. Some tools that are out there, you have Asana, ClickUp, Jira, Reich. These are all there, and they're just going to be coming out left and right. Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? And they're going to be coming out of the woodwork, basically. So you have to keep your eyes open. Don't get left behind. If you're managing projects, if you're a project manager, don't get left behind. Keep your finger on the pulse of what tools are out there and how they might help you and your types of projects.
Absolutely, Joe. Absolutely. Right. So, can you briefly explain about who, what, when, where, why, and how in project management? They call it 5W and 1H.
Yes, very, very key concept too. And I was happy to see this. And when you talk about who, we're right back to the term stakeholders. And if you recall, last time we got together, there was a portion of my book that talks about stakeholders and why they're important. And that's where the who comes into play, all right? Who are you going to need for your project? Who are you going to um, need to manage expectations, right? And that gets wrapped up into the term stakeholders. Who holds a stake in the outcome of your project? And it's really important, Michael, for you or anybody who manages a project to identify these folks early on so that you can manage those expectations, but also you can leverage their influence within the organization, how that affects your project. You can identify which stakeholders might, if perhaps they're not entirely bought in, how they might damage the project and how the project is managed. So it's really important to start with who and do it early. Make sure you identify them early. And then I won't go too much further on the who, because last time we were together, we talked about the stakeholder grid and the stakeholder register in detail. And again, that's in my book, but it's something that that your listeners really need to pay attention to early on. And then what? We're right back to scope of work. And what are you trying to accomplish on your project? And this is where, again, early on, if you identify, if you have a good scope of work, well defined, then that will help you avoid scope creep. And scope creep is something that everybody experiences at one point in their life, certainly project managers. Some people call it mission creep, scope creep for project managers. You don't want to get into that world because it's hard enough to bring a well-defined project in on time, within budget, with an excellent deliverable, rather than having to deal with all kinds of creeping scope. And now you're working on things that you don't need or nobody wants. And so that's what the what has to do with. Then you get to the when, and as the name implies, as you move forward in your planning process, you're going to start thinking about a schedule, a detailed schedule. And here we're right back to critical path methodology. And the critical path methodology really begins with the tool which we talked about called work breakdown structure, where you break the work down in a structured manner. You look at your scope of work and you say, okay, now what are the specific tasks and subtasks that I or we, myself and my team, need to accomplish in order to get the work done? And then you take the work breakdown structure and you say, all right, how do these tasks relate to each other? What has to be done first? Then what? Then what happens? What can be done at the same time or concurrently? That can be your best friend as a project manager. That can help you take an unrealistic deadline and make it realistic. Or Michael, if you're falling apart, if you're falling behind on your schedule, concurrent tasks, managing them well, reallocating resources can help you make up lost time. And so all of that leads into the overall concept of when and a timeline, because all of that will result in what's called your critical path, the tasks and subtasks within your schedule that have zero extra time to complete. Hence the term critical path. And as important, you'll be able to identify the tasks that are off the critical path and do have extra time. So you know you don't have to pay too much attention to those non-critical tasks. And you also know where you have to focus most of your attention. And so the when part of this is very important because of critical path methodology. And Michael, as you know, the end result of all this will be your Gantt chart or your schedule. And universal language for critical path, by the way, is red. If you see a red line going through anybody's Gantt chart, you know that's their critical path. Whether you're in Pakistan or New Jersey or Canada, that's the universal language. which gets us to where. Where is basically, again, self-explanatory: location, environment, where will the work occur? And I'll tell you, Michael, that's become more important. Post-COVID, post the pandemic, as the world basically transitioned to virtual teams and hybrid teams. You don't always have face-to-face meetings. You don't always get together and do the work together. So you really have to pay attention to where the work is happening. And, in the case of obviously construction work and things like that, that has a direct effect on how you plan and schedule or accomplish any project that you do. Why? Now that's a biggie. Why is also a big deal, because that talks about, basically think of it as your business case. Why are we doing the project? Does it make sense to do the project, right? What's the purpose? And sometimes as you walk through the why, you'll realize that, you know what, this isn't going to fly, or I'm not going to be able to sell this. Why? Because it doesn't offer value. And if it doesn't offer value, then perhaps the project really shouldn't be done. And so that's why the actually answering the question why is really crucial to a lot of projects. Now, I will tell you, having been in the project world for 34 years or so, most of my why was, hey, Joe, here's the project, here's the deadline, here's the budget, do it. Go. I didn't have to sell the project. It was given to me. But if you're in a position where you have to basically offer up a business case and show the value, then you have to pay close attention to that early on. And then finally, that last H of how, and when you talk about how, that goes to the heart of execution, Michael. How are you going to execute the project? And it basically puts all of the previous questions, the answers to those questions, into that formal plan, the execution plan for your project. And that is the plan that you'll track as the project matures, and you'll basically measure deviations from the plan based on your execution. And obviously you want as little deviation as possible. And if you do deviate, you have next steps and risk and all the other areas that we've talked about previously.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, Joe, because even we are connected virtually, though we have never met in person. Okay, right. So how can project management help doctors in the healthcare industry?
It's a really interesting question, because I don't hear it all that often, and we really should hear it, because project management, I mean, it can help almost anybody that has work to do. And you think about doctors, and I have a few fairly close friends who are doctors, and they all tell me the same thing. And just if you've been in a hospital, hopefully not that often in your life, but if you've seen a doctor, the one thing that they don't seem to have enough of is time. Their time for them is like gold. And so what I've often told my friends, and actually a couple of seminars that I've, most notably at the Hospital for Special Surgery in Manhattan, I did 3 or 4 seminars, and I had a few doctors in there, some nurses, some administrative staff, but we focused on time for them, because I would tell them, look, you can break it down by the month, by the week, by the day. And early on in the day, before you go out and start seeing patients, let's say a doctor making her or his rounds at a hospital, they can lay out a plan, and they can say, okay, this is what my day looks like. These are the estimated, and that would come from somebody else's work breakdown structure. Doctor doesn't need to do that. He knows the patients he's going to see, and he can then attach a timeline, an estimated duration for each visit. Um, Something might happen that will force the doctor to invest more time with patient 4, which takes away time from patient 5. And so he can roll that into a high-level risk plan. If I start losing time midway through the day, this is how I can recover that time. And what that'll do is that'll make him or her a more efficient, not only a more efficient doctor, but it'll free up more time for perhaps other endeavors that he would want to do during the day. And again, applying that in a real world scenario with my 3 friends, I've convinced 2 out of the 3. The third one is a tough sell. I haven't been able to convince him yet, but hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon, Joe, because project management can help a lot of healthcare professionals.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us an interesting story of your choice about how project management saved or helped you from something?
Helped me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will. Um, Again, I really like these questions that apply to the real world because I think that really helps your listeners more. And I'll give you an example, Michael. I had worked for Grumman Aerospace for many years, and then Northrop basically bought Grumman. It was a merger technically, but it was basically Northrop buying Grumman. And this is where things get challenging for organizations that go through mergers because you have 2 different organizations, 2 different cultures, and they have to become one. And they have to become one fairly quickly, and they have to do it on the fly. Customers still have to be serviced, and projects still need to be managed. And so, how does that happen? Well, it's not easy. So, one of the teams I was chosen to manage the procurement. Let's see, I'm trying to remember the formal name of the team. It was a supplier performance rating system where we had one that Grumman was using, one that Northrop was using, and we had to come up with the best one or a combination of the 2. And so what I did was I said, how am I going to do this? Because we have 2 different cultures, 2 different organizations with different processes. And so I said, hey, let's do it as a project. And so that's what we did. And I had a great team. I had folks from Northrop and Grumman, and we got together and we basically managed it as a project. And we identified supplier rating systems that were out there. And we found that Rockwell had the most efficient one or most effective one, and the rest was really just taking the project life cycle and gathering the information and then setting up our schedule. We were dealt a pretty aggressive deadline, and so we filled in. By this time we were using good project management software, and we filled in all the blanks, and we came up with a good system. And that basically saved me and a few others because when you go through a merger like that, there are a lot of jobs lost, unfortunately. But I will tell you, the interesting thing is a lot of the people that were jettisoned, they ended up in better places. That's one of the good consequences that people don't realize. But to go to the heart of your question, that really did save me. I ultimately ended up leaving about a year after to start my business, the one that I talk to you a lot about now with project management training and as an author. But project management came to the rescue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Project management helps us a lot. Even it helps me a lot, Joe. Right. So, and I need to
Yes,
be disciplined to follow it as well. Okay. Right.
yes, yeah. And you probably find, Michael, that the project tools help you become disciplined, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it does. Well, I'm not a expert in project management, but I'm trying to follow it. And Joe, with people like you and your book, can help many people. Okay,
I'm
so
glad to hear. Thank you.
great. So, Joe, any final message to our viewers and listeners out there?
Well, yes. And what I would like to tell everybody is um, let the data do the talking. You'll find that with projects, managing projects, there can be a lot of disagreements, and that's okay. That's okay. We call that the positive culture of dissent. You want that. You want people to disagree. People on your team, if everybody's smiling and nodding at each other after 6 weeks or 5 weeks, then, well, you've got a problem. People are afraid to speak their mind. So let the data do the talking. Try to foster that positive culture of dissent where you get people's ideas and they can disagree, but you'll get the best ideas if you can foster that disagreement in a positive manner. And I'd also like to say, keep up. There is so much going on. I mentioned it earlier in our discussion. Keep your finger on the pulse of all of the updates, of all of the new AI agents, the ones that can help you the most. All right. Artificial isn't intelligence isn't something to be feared. It's something if you embrace it and if you educate yourself as to not the science behind it, but how it can help you specifically with your projects, you're going to thrive in this new project world. You're going to have to be agile yourself. You're going to have to flex yourself because it's a new world. But if you embrace it, you can thrive and you will thrive.
Wise words, Joe. And thank you very much for taking time and doing this podcast with us.
Thank you, Michael. It was great to be with you again.